You're welcome to another edition of Motherland. Do well to like and subscribe in order to help us build more content. The man who came to be known to Europeans as Job Ben Solomon was one of the 388,000 Africans shipped to North America during the slave trade. He was one of a very small number of enslaved to survive the Middle Passage and captivity in North America and secure his return home to Africa. Around 1702, he was born Ayuba Suleiman Diallo into a prominent family of Muslim clerics in the Kingdom of Bundu in present-day northeast Senegal. His mother, Tonamata, was the wife of a noble Fubil cleric. At a young age, he was renowned for his intelligence, learning to read and write Arabic and studying the Quran. He also had success as a trader. In 1730 to 1731, when he was in his late 20s, Job's father sent him to sell 2 slaves to an English trader, Captain Stephen Peake. After unsuccessful negotiations, he crossed the Gambian River and sold his slaves. On his way home, he was captured by Mandinka slaves who sold him and his translator to the same Captain Peake who commanded the slave ship Arabella. Job's father attempted to exchange slaves for his son, but his men arrived in the coastal Gambia too late to buy back his son's freedom. Upon his arrival in Maryland, Job was sold to Alexander Tose, a tobacco planter, for 45 pounds. Being of a noble birth, he was a poor agricultural laborer and soon fled from the plantation. He was caught and jailed for several months, where he was eventually visited by an Anthony Thomas Blewett, who determined that Job was Muslim and thus likely from a particular part of West Africa. As Job did not speak English, a Senegambia slave was found to translate to the Wolof language, which he knew. After learning that he was a runaway slave, Job was sent back to Tose's plantation. In an effort to return home, Job wrote a letter in Arabic to his father in Bundu, explaining his fate and asking for money for his freedom. His letter was seen by Job Otlehub, a lawyer, deputy governor of the Royal African Company, and one of the founders of Georgia, which was originally intended as a slave-free colony. Otlehub had the letter translated from Arabic and upon reading it, decided to arrange for Job's freedom himself. After his purchase, Otlehub paid 45 pounds to compensate Tosley. Job sailed to England in 1933 to finalize his freedom. He arrived in London and impressed scholars in England with his intelligence, writing the Quran from memory. Job became such a celebrity that he was even introduced to the King and Queen of England. He also sat for a famous portrait which currently hangs in the National Portrait Gallery in London. In 1734, Job finally regained his freedom and returned to Senegambia as a free man. His own experience in captivity did not, however, turn him against slave trade. He worked on behalf of the Royal African Company to improve the British trade position against the French. His work was ultimately unsuccessful. In 1733, he was imprisoned by the French, but later released. Little knowledge of the last decade of Job's life exists, but it appears he died around 1773. Well, this is where we end today's edition of Motherland. Do well to encourage us by liking and subscribing to our channel. Also drop comments, for we'll be glad to reply as much as you drop for us. Until we meet again, this is Motherland.